Hello, this is Reverend J.L. Franklin, President of the Southwest Louisiana Community Coalition for Action. Thank you so much for tuning in with us and tuning in to us. Please take the time to subscribe to our channel. We'd like to keep you informed on the issues affecting the Black community in our state, certainly in our city and across the nation. And if you would like to become a change agent and you want to partner with us, please call the Freedom Fighter Hotline, 337-215-5353. Or if you would like to send us a contribution to help us stay on the front line in the fight right here in our own backyard, you can do so. Please make your checks payable to the Southwest Louisiana Community Coalition for Action. P.O. Box 836, Lake Charles, Louisiana 70602. Your contribution, large or small, will help us engage the work in the spirit of excellence. Now, let's get right into it. The President's viewpoint today is entitled, "Where Are the African American Gatekeepers on the CALCASIEU Parish Police Juror?" And maybe I should say, where the hell are they? Our gatekeepers, African American gatekeepers. Now, there are 15 police jurors in CALCASIEU Parish. Some places they're called, commissioners, such in our neighboring states. Even in Shreveport, they're called commissioners. But here in CALCASIEU Parish, we have a total number of 15. And of the 15, there are 4 who are African Americans. Let me give you their names. Mr. Calvin Collins, who represents District 2. Mr. Kelvin Guidry, who represents District 9. Mr. Tony Guillory, who represents District 4. And Miss Shelley Mayo, who represents District 3. Now, Miss Shelley Mayo, she's the Vice President of the police jury, and if she wins re-election at the next police jury election, then of course, as the officers on the police jury, when they elect new officers, Miss Shelley Mayo will probably become the president. Well, get this, on August 22nd, 2019, there was a very important vote that took place. Now, the African American, or the Lake Charles American Press newspaper, labeled it as the headliner the very next day as precinct conflict for October 12th election. Please get this. It also stated downtown event forces polling place to be moved. Precinct 310 will be moved, and please get this, from the CALCASIEU Parish Courthouse to Carnegie Memorial Library. Now, there are a lot of blacks who vote in this precinct. So I hear your question. Was there something like a fire to alter this process? Is there some reconstruction to the building that's being done? Has CALCASIEU Parish Courthouse, is it being deemed unsafe? Well, there are places across the state where precincts are being moved, but for a much profound reason. And according to the Secretary of State website, these voting dates, they are planned 2 to 3 years in advance, and sometimes even longer. Now, get ready for what I'm going to tell you. Here is why this precinct is being moved. It's being moved because there's a popular local food and wine tasting event scheduled on the same day as October 12th primary election, which forced the CALCASIEU Parish police jurors to move a polling place where a lot of black voters vote in the downtown district. Now, on October 12th, 2019, not only, that's a very important date in the state of Louisiana, because not only do we have local elections, but we're also having state elections. Our governor's race, Governor John Bell Edwards, along with 2 others, Republicans who are vying for the office. There are other state elected positions. We have 144 seats. Some of them have gone in uncontested, but we've got a lot of seats in the House and in the Senate in our state to be decided upon on that very day of October the 12th. So the local police jury members, they voted on August 22nd, that night, the very important meeting. Here's the vote. They voted 8-1 to move precinct 310 in favor of allowing a fundraiser for the banner series at McNeese State University to be held on the lawns. Now, make sure you get this, on the lawns of the parish courthouse and 1911 historic City Hall. We love our university. We love McNeese. But my goodness, what's up with this? Just do the smell taste. This doesn't pass the smell taste. Now, there was some debate. Candace Townsend, she's McNeese Director of Public Relations and University Events. Here's what she said. She said the date for the Rouge at Blanc is set as soon as the upcoming academic year, which is July to June calendar, is approved earlier in the spring semester. Now, in other words, almost a year in advance. But what about the regular election cycles that are planned, as according to the Secretary of State website, 2 to 3 years in advance and even longer? Now, this is a fun event. It's a fundraiser. And I want to give a shout out, as we always do on our program. We give shout outs. I want to give a very special shout out to Mr. Paul Gary, who spoke against moving the precinct. Mr. Gary, who's affectionately known as PJ, he really deserves a big shout out. Here's what Mr. Paul Gary said at the police jury meeting. He said, we know when this election is coming. You're going to put good times over voting. This is some serious stuff. Thank you, Mr. Gary, for making this statement. And you're absolutely right. That doesn't look good for us in a democracy. You know, it was the historian and the moralist, Lord Acton, who wrote his opinion in a letter to Bishop Mandel Creighton in that year of 1887. He said these notable words: power corrupts absolute, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, the debate goes on. The white police jury members, they gave all the hoopla, but in the end, they voted in favor of moving the precinct. For instance, Mr. Chris Landry, who's white, represents District 7. Here's what he said. He said the problem didn't just happen on purpose, but shouldn't be repeated. He said we certainly can't go back on our word, allowing them to use the grounds at this point. Well, Mr. Landry, the Secretary of State, planned the October 12th election not 1 year ago, not 2 years ago, but more than 3 years ago. What about that? Mr. Landry, where is your calendar? Is it proper? A little over a month from the big election, and this precinct gets moved. People are just finding out about it. McNeese said that they planned it a year in advance. Well, here's the question. When did CALCASIEU Parish accept the plans? They gave approval, what, a couple of weeks ago? We're not crazy. This has been in the works. For something of this magnitude to take place, something that deals precisely with the voting rights of people, it gets altered by a fundraiser that will scatter some black voters and other voters to vote in another precinct unnecessarily. Again, you do the smell test. Now, remember I asked you in the question, asked you the question in the earlier part of the segment, where are the African-American gatekeepers that are on the CALCASIEU Parish Police Jury? Or maybe, where were they a few August 22nd, 2019. Well, out of the 4 of them, 3 of them were present. And we have their votes on this very important matter. Well, Mr. Tony Guillory, who represents District 4, I have to tell you, we believe in giving shout-outs. He deserved a shout because Mr. Tony Guillory, he voted against moving the precinct. Here's what he said. It's on record. He said that there are more than 800 voters that will be impacted. I do think we slipped somewhere. He said of the scheduling conflict that I have had several phone calls on that. Now, Mr. Guillory, the only problem was that it was not a slip. We know it was on purpose, and it was disrespectful to the voters of this precinct 310. Believe it or not, I have to believe it was purposed. The Calcasieu Parish Police Jury has a budget of over $350 million. And this is how you think, and this is how you plan? Well, it gets better. The other African Americans present at the meeting who represents District 3 voted in favor of moving the precinct. Here's what Ms. Shelley Mayo said. She said that the decision gives you heartaches, and she added that voters deserve more of an advance notice. Ms. Shelley Mayo said that I'm caught between a rock and a hard place on this one here. You're going to inconvenience a lot of people on that day. And yet, she voted in favor of it. This most important vote. Therefore, African Americans on the police jury. 3 of them were present. 1 voted, against it. 2 voted in favor of moving this precinct. All right? Mr. Calvin Collins, he voted in favor of moving this precinct. But then, of course, Mr. Kevin Guidry, he was not there. He represents District 9. We're told, of course, he was at the radio station doing an interview because he's running a campaign against Mr. Wilford Carter, that's running for state representative. He was not there for that very important meeting. I don't know, and I don't understand, rather, how the Secretary of State approved this with an obvious request. It came from the Clerk of Court, Mr. Lynn Jones, and now it has been approved by the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. There has to be some legal challenges here. Just has to be. Now, this is very troubling for me. I'm sure, there's some wonderful people on the police jury. There's some wonderful people I know. But why would they alter the voting of Precinct 310 for an extracurricular activity? Mr. Lynn Jones, how often do you do this? And would you have done this if this precinct was in South Lake Charles without a more apparent reason other than an extracurricular activity? I want to clearly say that we have some wonderful people who are running for office on October 12th here in our state, here in our city, and of course in our parish. But let's not negate our responsibilities where we presently serve. Some, of course, they'll be successful, and we applaud each candidate that is running because it takes courage, it takes resources, and of course it takes much prayers. But the word of our Lord reminds us in a passage over in Luke 12 and 48, to whom much is given, much is required. And we failed to mention last week that Mr. Charles Lockett is running as a candidate for the police jury in District 5. We commend his efforts. Now, here's what I want you to do. Go to the Secretary of State website. You can go to the Secretary of State website. You have the privilege. It is public record. Trust me, it is public record. you can look at every candidate, because when you're running for public office, every candidate has to file a campaign finance report. And of course, you can file that report, look at every candidate, and you're going to find some who have filed their report, and you'll see the donor list of those persons who have given to them. Then you'll see some who have not done their campaign finance report in a timely fashion, but it is your right to view them. This is Reverend J.L. Franklin, President of the Southwest Louisiana Community Coalition for Action. Let me tell you what we're doing. We're building a community of justice and equality for all. Until next time, God bless.